You walk every single day, rain or shine, without fail, and you genuinely believe you are doing everything right for your legs. But here is what I want you to do right now. Sit down in the deepest chair or sofa you have nearby. Now stand up. No hands, no rocking forward. Just stand. What happened? If you hesitated, if you grabbed the armrest, if you had to throw your weight forward just to get momentum, I need you to hear this. That is not normal aging. That is a warning. And your daily walk, the one you have trusted for years, is not fixing it. Here is what this video is about. Walking is not enough after 60. I know that sounds wrong. I know that contradicts almost everything you have been told. But the research is clear, and the pattern I see over and over again is undeniable. People who walk every single day are still losing the specific kind of leg strength that keeps them independent. Not because they are lazy, not because they are doing something wrong, but because walking and leg strength are not the same thing. They never were. In this video, I am going to show you exactly why that gap exists, what is actually happening inside your legs after 60, and then I'm going to give you the one exercise that builds real lower body strength faster than any walk ever could. We are going to build toward it step by step, and by the end, you will understand not just what to do, but exactly why it works and how to make it harder over time so it keeps working for years. Let us start with the uncomfortable truth. There is a condition called dynapenia. You have probably never heard that word. Most people have not. But if you are over 60, it is one of the most important words you can learn. Dynapenia means the loss of muscle strength that comes with age, not muscle mass necessarily. Strength. And here's the part that catches everyone off guard. Dynapenia continues even in people who are physically active, even in people who walk every day. Research that followed active older adults over time found that knee strength, the strength that lets you push up from a chair, climb a step, or catch yourself before a fall, declined even in those who were already endurance trained. Walking every day, still losing strength. Let that sink in for a second. You can be walking 30, 40, 60 minutes a day and still be losing the leg strength that matters most. Not because walking is bad. Walking is genuinely wonderful for your heart, your blood pressure, your mood, your sleep, your brain. None of that is in question, but walking is not a strength exercise. It was never designed to be. And after 60, that distinction becomes the difference between independence and dependence. Here is why. When you walk, you are recruiting what exercise scientists call slow-twitch muscle fibers. These are your endurance fibers. They are built for long, steady, low-intensity effort. They are what keeps you going on a 20-minute stroll around the block, but they are not what saves you when you stumble on a curb. They are not what lifts you off a low chair without your hands. They are not what gives you the reserve capacity to climb a flight of stairs and still feel stable at the top. That job belongs to your fast-twitch fibers, your power fibers, the ones that fire explosively when you need them most. Walking barely touches those fibers, and after 60, if you are not specifically training them, they quietly disappear. You do not notice at first because walking still feels fine. The body is remarkably good at compensating. It finds workarounds. It recruits different muscles. It adjusts your gait. But underneath that adaptation, your reserve is shrinking. And one day, you sit down in a low chair, and you reach for the armrest without even thinking about it. That is the moment the gap reveals itself. But here is what makes this even more important. That gap between walking fitness and actual leg strength is not just about comfort, it is about survival. Researchers who followed older adults for years found something striking. The number of steps people took each day was not the strongest predictor of whether they stayed independent. Specific strength patterns were the ability to generate force, the ability to rise, step, recover, and repeat. That is what kept people living on their own terms. So the question becomes, what exercise actually trains those patterns? What movement builds that kind of strength efficiently, at home, without a gym, in a way that directly transfers to real life? The answer is something you already do every single day. You just have not been doing it with intention. It is called the sit to stand, the chair squat, the movement of rising from a seated position under control and lowering back down with purpose. And before you think, that sounds too simple, I want you to understand what is actually happening when you do this movement correctly, because it is not simple at all. When you perform a proper sit to stand, you are loading your quadriceps, the large muscles on the front of your thighs, more directly than almost any other exercise you can do without equipment. You are activating your glutes, the most powerful muscles in your lower body. You are engaging your trunk stabilizers, the deep muscles around your spine and pelvis that keep you upright and balanced. And you are training the exact transition from sitting to standing that your body performs dozens of times every single day. Getting up from the breakfast table, rising from the car seat, standing up from the toilet. Every single one of those moments uses this exact movement pattern. Walking rehearses moving forward. The sit to stand rehearses getting up. And getting up is what independence actually looks like. Now here is where it gets really interesting. There is a test that physical therapists and researchers have used for decades to measure lower body function in older adults. It is called the 30-second chair stand test. The idea is simple. You sit in a chair with your arms crossed over your chest. No armrests, no momentum. And you count how many times you can fully stand up and sit back down in 30 seconds. That is it. That simple number, the number of times you can rise and sit in half a minute, correlates directly with leg press performance, with fall risk, with functional independence, and with how well you will age over the next 5 to 10 years. Research has confirmed this repeatedly. It is not a social media fitness trend. It has been validated in clinical studies for decades. And here is the part that should genuinely surprise you. Some older adults who walk briskly every day and feel fit and active will struggle with this test. They will hit 8 or 9 repetitions when the healthy range for their age is 12 to 15. They walk well. They just cannot generate the force output needed to rise repeatedly without support. That is dynapenia showing itself. That is the gap between endurance and strength in plain sight. But here is the good news. That gap is closable. And the sit to stand is the tool that closes it faster than anything else you can do at home. Let me show you exactly how to do this correctly. Because the most common version of this exercise that people do is almost completely ineffective, and I do not want you wasting your time. Most people, when they stand up from a chair, lean forward aggressively, build momentum with their upper body, and essentially throw themselves upright. That approach takes the load off your legs and puts it onto your momentum. It feels easier. It is easier. But it does almost nothing for your quadriceps and glutes because those muscles never have to work hard enough to create an adaptation. Here is the version that actually builds strength. Sit toward the front edge of your chair. Your feet should be flat on the floor, roughly hip-width apart, positioned slightly behind your knees. Cross your arms over your chest. This removes the option of pushing off with your hands. Now, lean forward from your hips, not your lower back, just enough to bring your center of gravity over your feet. Then drive through your heels and stand up fully. Fully means hips extended, knees straight, standing tall. Do not stop halfway. Come all the way up. Then, and this is the part most people skip entirely, lower yourself back down slowly. Do not drop. Do not plop. Control the descent. Take 2 to 3 full seconds to lower yourself back to the seat. The moment you touch the seat, stand again. That slow, controlled lowering phase is called the eccentric contraction. It is where a massive amount of muscle strength is built. It is also the phase that walking never gives you. When you walk, your muscles are mostly contracting to propel you forward. The sit to stand forces your muscles to resist gravity on the way down, and that resistance is what triggers real strength adaptation. Start with 10 repetitions. Rest for 60 seconds. Do another 10. That is your starting point. It will feel harder than you expect. That difficulty is exactly the signal your muscles need. Now that is important, but if you stop there, you will plateau quickly. And this is where most people get stuck. They find an exercise, they do it the same way every day, and after a few weeks they wonder why they are not getting stronger anymore. The answer is progression. Your muscles adapt to a challenge. Once they adapt, you need a new challenge. The first progression is chair height. A standard dining chair is forgiving. Lower the chair and the exercise becomes dramatically harder. Even dropping 2 or 3 inches changes the demand on your quadriceps significantly. You can use a folded towel or a firm cushion to adjust the height and then gradually remove it over weeks as you get stronger. The day you can rise cleanly from a low surface without your hands is the day you know your legs have genuinely rebuilt real strength. The second progression is speed variation. Once you can do 15 clean repetitions from a standard chair, try this. Stand up as fast as you possibly can, explosively, powerfully, and then lower yourself back down slowly over 3 seconds. That combination of explosive up and slow down is one of the most effective ways to train both your fast-twitch power fibers and your eccentric strength at the same time. This is the kind of training that research shows has the most direct impact on fall prevention and functional independence. The third progression is adding load, a light backpack with a water bottle, a pair of small dumbbells held at your sides, even holding a heavy book against your chest. Adding external resistance forces your legs to work harder and accelerate strength gains. You do not need a gym. You need a chair and something heavy enough to make the movement challenging. Here is why all of this matters so much more than most people realize. Think about reserve capacity. When you are walking every day but not training strength, your legs have just enough capacity to handle the demands of daily life. Barely enough. That means when life gets harder, when you are tired, when the terrain is uneven, when you carry groceries, when you have to recover from an illness, you have almost nothing left in reserve. The margin between functioning and falling is razor thin. But when you build real leg strength through sit-to-stand training, you raise that ceiling, you create a buffer. Now when life gets harder, you have something to draw on. You do not just survive the hard moments, you handle them with stability and confidence. There is another dimension to this exercise that most people do not talk about. The sit-to-stand does not just build strength, it builds balance. Research with active older adults found that sit-to-stand performance was directly associated with balance in both single-leg tasks and dynamic movement. Every time you rise from a chair, you are transitioning from a stable seated position to a standing position, where your base of support suddenly shrinks and your entire body weight shifts. Your balance system has to engage instantly. Your ankles, your hips, your core all have to coordinate together to keep you upright. Do this movement repeatedly with control and intention, and you are training your balance at the same time as your strength. Walking is bilateral and rhythmic. The sit-to-stand is a demanding transition, and transitions are exactly where fall risk lives. Think about when most falls happen, not during the walk itself, during the moments between activities, standing up from the car, rising from the dinner table, getting up in the middle of the night. Those are transition moments, and the sit-to-stand trains those moments directly. Now let me give you a simple weekly structure that you can start immediately. This is not complicated. You do not need to overhaul your life, you keep your walks. Walking is still valuable, and you should absolutely continue. But you add this one exercise 3 times per week on non-consecutive days. Monday, Wednesday, Friday works well for most people. Each session takes less than 10 minutes. Start with a brief warm-up. March in place for 60 seconds. Gentle knee lifts. Get the blood moving in your legs. Then move to your chair. Perform 3 sets of 10 to 15 sit-to-stand repetitions. Rest 60 seconds between sets. Focus on the slow descent every single time. After your sets, finish with 30 seconds of standing on one leg. Hold a wall if you need to, then switch sides. This adds a direct balance challenge that complements the strength work perfectly. That is the whole session. 10 minutes, 3 times a week. In the first 2 weeks, you will feel the soreness that tells you muscles are being challenged that have not been challenged in a long time. That is a good sign. In weeks 3 and 4, the movement will start to feel more controlled, more powerful. You will notice it in real life before you notice it in the exercise itself. Getting up from the sofa feels easier, the car feels easier, the stairs feel more confident. By week 6, if you have been consistent and progressing the challenge, you should test yourself with the 30-second chair stand. Count your repetitions. Compare it to where you started. That number is your real fitness metric. Not miles walked, not steps counted. Here is one more thing I want to address directly because I know some of you are thinking it. What if my knees hurt? What if I have arthritis or joint pain that makes this feel risky? The sit-to-stand, done correctly, is actually one of the most joint-friendly lower body exercises available. Because you are starting from a seated position, the range of motion is controlled. You are not going deeper than your body allows. If you have knee pain, start with a higher chair, a bar stool height, something that only requires a small bend in the knee. Even a very shallow sit-to-stand still recruits your quadriceps and glutes. You still get the benefit. As your strength improves, you can gradually lower the surface. The movement adapts to where you are. Not the other way around. The most important thing is to start. Not to start perfectly. Not to start at the ideal height or with the ideal form. Just to start. Because every day you rely on walking alone, the gap between your endurance and your actual leg strength gets a little wider. And the wider that gap gets, the harder it becomes to close. You have been walking. That matters. That is not nothing. But now you know what walking cannot do. It cannot rebuild the fast twitch power your legs need. It cannot train the eccentric strength that protects your joints and catches you when you stumble. It cannot rehearse the exact movement pattern that determines whether you stay independent or start depending on others. The sit-to-stand does all of that. In 10 minutes, 3 times a week, at home, with a chair. If this is making sense to you, if you can see the difference between moving and being strong, I want you to do something right now. Sit down without using the armrests. Stand up slowly and with complete control. That is your starting point. Remember what that feels like today. Because in 6 weeks, if you do the work, it is going to feel completely different. And if you found this video useful, please share it with someone you care about who is over 60 and still relying only on their daily walk. They need to hear this. Hit the subscribe button because we go deep on exactly this kind of evidence-based, practical information every single week. And leave a comment below telling me how many repetitions you got on your first 30-second chair stand test. I read every single one. Your number is not a judgment, it is a starting point. And starting points are where everything changes. Walking keeps you moving. Chair stands make you stronger. You need both. But after 60, only one of them is building the strength that keeps you truly independent. Now you know which one. Now go do it.